Hello! I just wanted to make a real quick video just because I have several people that need to know how to make acrylic boxes. I haven't been able to find any videos yet to help, so what I've learned is basically just watching some TikTok videos, and I've had to rewatch those like several times because they're quick videos. I've learned a lot of different things on the way, so I just wanted to kind of show how to do a basic box. My box is going to be a little bit wider. I have 8 centimeter pieces for my bottom, but this is the same concept that you'll do whether you're using one piece and making a smaller type box, or you're doing 2 or 4, any type of size that you do for a basic box. This is how you're going to do it. The first thing you need to make sure that you do is do not remove the film that is on the acrylic. If you remove the film and you make a mistake and you need to correct it, you can compromise your acrylic. Also, I would use E6000 for your glue. You can use super glue if you want, but if you do use super glue, you're not going to have an opportunity to make sure that your acrylics are straight. If you have to move them or realign them, that is going to be a lot harder for you to do if you use super glue because it dries so fast. Once you get it down and you can actually eyeball your lining, like lining it up and get it on there fast, you can totally do that, but I definitely would do E6000. I do have a special tip on mine. I got it from this lady I buy acrylics from. I really haven't found a place that sells them yet, but you can also buy the precision tip E6000 tips off Amazon. It does come in like a smaller bottle, but the tips are really nice and the glue is easier to control. If you don't have tips at all and you're just using your normal glue bottle, that's totally fine. A lot more glue will come out, so I suggest that you go a lot faster when you're running it along the acrylic. Now, I do have mainly 8 centimeter acrylics for this box. I am deciding to add in some 4s. Pretty much if you have 4 centimeters, you need 24 pieces total to make a box that is kind of smaller. Like using these sizes, you would just do a really small box. 4 pieces equals an 8 centimeter acrylic. So I like to use those on my side panels. The the bottom and the top panels, I really like to use the bigger sizes because it keeps them more secure. But if you do have more 4 centimeters, it's fine. It'll still work. You just got to watch the weight that you put on the inside of the box once it's done, because it can cave in if you put too much weight on it. And then what I would also suggest doing is kind of line up your acrylics how you want to do them. That way you have a layout and you know exactly which acrylics you're going to glue and where you're going to glue them at. It makes your time go by a lot faster when you're building your boxes. And then, so of course, first step is you just start gluing them together. So I just take my E6000, I hope the camera will focus. And the tip really allows the right amount of glue to come out. I do use a lot of paper towels also. If for any reason you use too much glue and you put your acrylics together and you see some of the glue seep out, you can just use a paper towel and wipe it up. And I would definitely allow the pieces to glue for maybe even overnight before you really start messing with them too much. Usually I let them set for like, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes when I'm building the box. And then before I actually start using the box, like moving the lid around or putting any items in it, I will at least wait overnight. That way it'll give the glue a longer time to dry. I have seen some people use, I think it's called B7000. It is a cheaper glue. It works, but it's a very slow drying glue. So if you do use it, that's fine, but just make sure that you are allowing your acrylic to dry for a while before you actually start messing with it. I would also recommend having tweezers on hand. Anytime I've made a mistake where I have to take my acrylics apart and like re-glue it, I use my tweezers to scrape off the glue. Sometimes if you get glue on the acrylic, like let's say you take off your film and you're putting like your panels together and you accidentally get glue on one of the other acrylics, you can scrape it off. But usually when you have laser printed like this one, you can scratch it a little bit. But you can at least still get the glue off. Sometimes if I scratch up my acrylics, I have a lot of resin charms, and I'll actually glue charms to the outside of the box as well that match the design of my acrylics. And that just kind of helps cover your mistakes. Okay, so I'm going to put these together. And sorry if my camera's moving because it's on my table. Okay, so once you get them together, I just kind of push down and push them in together like this. You can use a ruler. I have acrylic bookmarks. This helps me line them up and straighten them as well. So you just put it on the bottom and then you just kind of move it around just to make sure everything is straight. Same with the top. I'll like, here, let me zoom out. Like if you put it on the side right here, you can then push towards it and it'll straighten up your acrylics. So that way you have everything straight. So we're going to let this dry up a little bit and then we'll start doing the side panels. Okay, so now I'm going to glue the 4 CMs together. If you want to glue like 2 pieces at a time and let those dry and then you glue those together, you can do that. For me, it's a lot quicker if I just kind of glue them all together. So I make sure, whoa, sorry, on one of the acrylics, just kind of like I do with the 8 centimeters, I'll come on the side and put some glue down. Hold on, I need to take some out of the top here. Sometimes it'll start drying in the tip and I need to fix it. Okay. So I'll do on the side, on the bottom. And then on this piece, since I'm already doing the side on here, I just need to do the bottom. And then on this piece, since I did the bottom here, I just want to do the side. So then this piece, you don't have to really do anything to it. And for now, I'm just going to do 2 panels. Well, not 2 panels, but 2 technically 8 cm pieces with my 4s, and then I'm just going to stick with 8 centimeters for the rest of the box. I'm also going to put a divider on the inside, so I kind of have like 2 separate areas to put stuff in. Because I want to give this one to my son, because he loves Kirby. Okay. Alright, so then I just push those two, I push those two, and then bring them together. And then if you start seeing your glue coming out, the pieces, just take tissue or paper towel, just kind of wipe on them. And then using a ruler or whatever you have to straighten stuff up with, just come and make sure all of your stuff is straight. Okay, so we're going to let those dry and then start working on the other side panels. Okay, so for now, I'm literally going to do 2 parts of the side panels because I'm going to have 3 8 centimeters and then 1 of the 4 centimeter pieces on one side and then same on the opposite side. Sometimes I'll even do 2 and 2, so that way I can kind of stagger them better. Because sometimes when you do the 4 centimeters, you get more of a variety of the characters than you do the 8 centimeters. So I might actually... I wonder if I should do that. No, I think I'm just going to keep it. So basically what you do, so pretend this is the bottom of the box, right? So when you have the bottom of the box like this, you need to make sure that, because your side panels go like here, so when you glue them, you want to make sure you go top to bottom, and then of course we're going to come on the side after the 4 centimeters dry. And then when you're putting them on, all of the characters, you want them facing outward, and then your laser print is coming on the inside of the box, so that way you can see everything on the outside. So I'm just going to glue these ones on top of each other, and then I'll glue the other ones once the 4 centimeters are dry. Well, not all the way dry, but somewhat dry. And I mean, you can glue 3 together if you want, which I think I'm going to do, because since I only have one of the panels with 4 CM, it doesn't really make a difference. So I think I'm going to get one more acrylic out. And then I'm going to not glue anything on here because I'm going to put the 4 CM right here when it's all dry. Okay, so then I just got a couple more acrylics so I can do the other side panel also, and I think I'm going to put my 4 centimeter on top this time instead of the bottom like I'm doing on the other panel. So we're just going to glue these ones. And again, I'm only doing this side for glue because I do not want to add glue to the top because that's where the 4 centimeters is going to go. So this 8 centimeter up here won't need any glue on it till we add the other 4 CM panels. And we'll be able to add that soon because as long as it's dry and kind of tacky, we'll be able to add it. And then once it's a little bit more dry, we'll put it together. Okay, so I added the 4 centimeters on one of them. And then it's dry enough to be able to add them to the panels. So what I'm going to do with this one is we're just going to do, just don't squeeze on it hard, because if you do squeeze on it a little bit too hard, it's going to collapse because it's not all the way dry. Okay, so put some on the side here. And I just have my TV going, so you might hear that in the background. But hopefully it's not too loud. And then if it starts coming out a lot like that, I just kind of put a little bit on the acrylic and then just start dragging it over it. So that way I don't have to squeeze any more of the glue out. That's the only thing I do not like about E6000 is that once you open it, it really starts coming out with all of that pressure buildup on the inside. Once you kind of use a little bit of it, then it's not coming out so fast. So I don't know if you can see this. Let me try to zoom in here. But right here, like you can see the glue. This is why it is so important to keep your film on. Because if you don't do that, your acrylics are going to get ruined. And we all know that acrylics can be pretty expensive, especially if you're buying a lot like I do. And you don't want to mess them up because then you can't use them. And especially when they're laser printed like this, it sees every mistake you do. So I literally only take the film off when I absolutely have to. Typically when you are gluing your side panels on or your front and back, you need to take some of the film off, because like the front and the back panels, they go on top of the bottom acrylic. So you definitely have to take your film off the bottom piece to get those on. But we'll get this drying, and then I like to get the top lid together so that way that can start drying, so we can get everything put together pretty soon once the side panels are getting dried. Okay, so I'm doing a divider on the inside of mine to kind of give it 2 different cubby areas. So I do have 2 extra pieces I'm gluing together, but the top and the bottom panels, of course, always need to have the same amount of acrylics. Same with the side panels, obviously, because you're making a box. So again, with this one, I'm going to glue the side panel. Side of the acrylic, I should say. Oh, sometimes it drives me nuts when it starts drying on the inside, because you just got to push up the glue a little bit and get it out. But these tips are amazing. I wish they would sell them on Amazon, because it's hard to find these on TikTok. Okay, so we got the side. Then we're going to do the bottom. Okay, now on this piece, we're going to do the side. And we'll do the bottom. Same with this one, we'll do the side. And usually I don't put this much glue on them sometimes, but when I have a new bottle of glue, so much more glue is being pushed out. Now this piece on the end, we're just going to leave alone. So this piece, since we did the side and the bottom, we just need to do the side. And we're also just going to do the side on here. And then this one will be the side. And then on this last one, I'm going to do the top, since the other acrylic above it is completely glueless. And then wipe the tip off. Then I have this little tip thing I put over it. Okay, and just push them all together. I need to try really hard to not move my little table so much because my phone keeps moving. Okay. So I always give it a real push, big push, and I squeeze it together. And sometimes the glue, because I have a mat on here, obviously, and sometimes the glue will seep through the bottom of the acrylic and get on the mat. And then it is a little bit harder to move the acrylic, but as long as you push gently, you can get it off. Okay. See, that glue is strong. All right, let's get this straightened up. All right, so now we're gonna let this glue for a little bit. Once we get a good bond and it gets pretty tacky and we're careful, we can come back in and start getting the panels on to create the box. And then we'll let that dry before we put hinges and all of that kind of stuff on there. And then what I'm going to do also is I'll add glue to these two, since I have the divider in the middle. And you can use boxes for so many things. I use them to, I'll build smaller boxes and put like beads in there when I'm making like phone chains or bracelets or pens. I have other bigger boxes that holds a lot of my beads in them. Gosh, you can build more narrow boxes and hold your makeup brushes. I absolutely love making them. Okay, so we'll give it about like 10 minutes, let it dry up a little bit, and then we'll kind of start putting it together. Okay, so the bottom has dried enough to where we can start putting everything together. So this is where you want to take off the top part of the film. I like to use tweezers. A lot of people will take another acrylic and just kind of dig it into it a little bit to get it peeled up. But for some, you know, I just feel like tweezers work a little bit better for me. Sometimes I feel like when I use another acrylic, it just kind of shreds it a little bit. And then typically when I'm making smaller boxes, I can put the panels on and I don't really need any support to hold it up, but you can use like a smaller box or a bottle of something. Like I'm going to use a bottle of lotion. That way it just kind of supports it to where it doesn't fall over while it's drying. Sometimes what I'll also do is I'll get like the front and the back on really quick and then kind of turn it over on its side and start putting the side panels on, so that way it's all holding together and supporting each other. I've found that helps a lot. And then you're not waiting for one panel to dry and then put another panel on and just kind of take a lot more time to put it together. And then I'm going to leave the film on the bottom until it's done drying. I'm going to get the other panel really quick, so I'm going to kind of turn this one. And then I think I actually want to use this one for my top. So what I'm going to do, I am going to get the other acrylic so we can build our front and our back really quick. Because we have the side panels, we have the top, the bottom, and then I'm just going to get the front and the back going really quick. Okay, so I decided for the front and the back panel, I'm going to do a mixture of the 8 and the 4 CMs. So I decided on each one I'm going to do 2 8 CMs made out of 4 CMs. And then I'm going to do 6 8 CMs. So I have to do the front and the back, get those glued together, so that way those can start to dry, and then we can put everything together. I do try to not repeat the design on the acrylic on each panel as much as I possibly can. I know with some of the sets it's hard to do that because you do get a lot of the same designs of the character. But that's why I feel it's really important to plan out what you want it to look like before you start gluing everything, just in case you have a bunch of duplicates. So I'm going to do what I did before and just kind of start gluing these all together. I'm going to take the 4 CMs and just glue it as I'm gluing everything together instead of letting it dry separately. I feel like doing that, it just makes everything go by so much faster. And then the other 2 bigger panels I'm going to use those for the top and the bottom. They're still not all the way dry yet, but it'll be dry enough to be able to start putting everything together. If you do want to wait until the next day after it's fully dry, you definitely can do that as well. And then I'm going to make another video that goes over what you can do if you make mistakes. Because I've learned a couple of tricks where if I, let's say, get glue on the acrylic and I start scraping it with my tweezers and I accidentally like scratch it, I found a couple of things. As long as you have charms, like the resin charms, you can add those to the acrylic and it'll help cover up your mistakes. I do have a couple of Kirby resin charms, not too many, but like I did a Care Bear box and I accidentally started getting scratches on there and my hinges were glued wrong, so I had to take those off, and adding the charms really helped cover up any imperfections. So I'm going to do a separate video showing what you can do, because some people will give up and just throw their acrylic away or start over, and you don't really need to do that. Okay, so I'm going to glue these together really quick because it's going to take me a minute. And then once they're kind of set enough to where I can actually have it stable and put it together, we'll start putting the panels on. All right, so most of my stuff is dry. Now, I'm putting a divider in the middle of my box. So I have to put my side pieces on top of the acrylic, because if I don't, the piece that's going to be the divider will not fit, because normally you put your back and your front pieces on the top of your acrylic to kind of help not create such a big gap between the acrylic and your lid. So if you do a divider, you do start with your side panels. You glue them, design facing outward, of course, but you do glue them on the top edge of your bottom piece. And then once you get to your front and your back pieces, you glue it against the acrylic and then the side piece of your side panel. And I'm doing it because I need enough room for this piece to be supported. Because if I tried putting this on top and then I did the divider, I'm not going to have enough room to put my front panel on. So if you ever have to do this where you put your side pieces on the bottom of the acrylic, you do have to slide up the top and the back panels a little bit, because normally you have about this much of a gap left. So you got to try to slide it up as much as you can without coming off the acrylic right here. So that way you don't have a big gap on your lid. I'll have to show you that when we do the lid, but if you are not doing a divider, make sure you always put your front and your back piece on the top part of the acrylic. And then when you glue your side piece on, you put the glue here on the side of the bottom, and then you run it along the side of your back panel and your front panel, and then it kind of goes on like this. So that's what's supporting that. Okay, so I took the film off those, and for now I can leave the film on the side panels because I don't have any piece that is going to cover the acrylics on here, so that way I can leave the film on. I mean, you can take the back part off if you want, but when I turn it to the side to start gluing the divider in and everything, that's when I'm going to probably take it off. Okay. Let's get the glue out. And then typically if you do build a bigger box where your panels are a little bit larger, I would highly recommend having something that you can use to kind of lean up against your acrylic a little bit to support it from falling. Usually I try to get my side panels on and then I turn it so it rests on its side. Okay, and then let me move the glue. Okay. See, it does like to hold up a little bit, so that's always good. But I try getting it to the edge as far as I can. Okay, hopefully that'll stay up while I get, ooh, see, it wants to lean. Okay, let me get my lotion bottle. Okay, so see my lotion bottle? Just kind of holding it up. It works really well. Okay, so now we're going to do this side. Okay. And sometimes it kind of likes to slide around. So I always try to put like my hand or fingers in front and in the back of the panel to kind of support it. Ooh. And sometimes if you use a lot of glue, kind of like I do, you just gotta let it get tacky for a minute before you move it. Okay, so I'm going to hold this for a minute and then I'm going to flip it on its side. Okay, so this is what it looks like on its side, and it's a lot easier for the side panels to start drying when you have it like this. And you can make sure that they're straight and not caving in. And then in a minute, I'm going to put one of the back panels on, and then I'm going to do the divider before I put the front panel on. All right, so I'm going to put the front panel on now. Since it's going to be glued along the edges, we definitely want to take off the back of the film. And then we'll leave the front on. Whoa, sorry. Until everything's dried. I really need to get a bigger table. I usually don't make really big boxes, but my son loves Kirby, and I did make him a smaller Mario box that had drawers in it, but it was my first time making drawers, and they kind of stick, you know, when you go to open them, so I need to practice doing drawers. This is exactly why I wanted to make some videos to help people, because there's really nothing out there to help us when we're learning how to make any type of box. Usually when you make just a smaller box, it's okay if your lid has a little gap, but typically when you get a little bit of a bigger box, it's very noticeable when you have the gap. I also have a box where the top of the box, the lid doesn't open. I have the front part of it where it has like swinging doors where you kind of open it from the front. That one was fun to make, but it also doesn't provide a lot of support to the top of the box. So kind of putting in like a wall on the inside of the box will kind of help give the wall, the panel more support too. So I'll probably do another video on that one as well, because there are so many different ways you can do these boxes. I even made a box where you open the lid and there's a smaller box within the box and it kind of pops up. That was really fun to make. So I'm going to post a video separately about that one. And it's really fun to try to create different ways of making boxes with these, so you're not just getting stuck with one design. Drawers can be a little bit tricky. Typically you have to use like 4 and 8 centimeters. You can't really go too much bigger. Usually when you do, I mean, you might be able to do like a 5 or a 10 centimeter, but if you do anything bigger like a 16 centimeter, it kind of curves a little bit more on the edges, so it creates almost like a different dimension. Like it sometimes it doesn't feel like you can put a couple of 8 centimeters together to create a 16, and theoretically it should be the same size, but it's typically not. So I've done a lot of different styles of boxes, so I think posting as much as I can to try to help others out there will be a good thing. Okay, so I do have some glue buildup on my back side here, but it'll eventually come off. Oh, that one was a little bit hard. And then also what I do is, if you see that you have film, like a piece of film that rips off, kind of like I have right here, or you had a lot of glue that kind of seeped through when you were putting the acrylics together, you can take your tweezers and just kind of go back and forth in the middle area, and you'll you'll get it off. Okay, I think I just got this one last piece. I'm really sorry I keep moving the table too much, so it's making my camera shake. Okay, I'm gonna get this little spot right here. All right. Okay, so when we glue this, what we're gonna do, so on the box, you're gonna glue just the frame of your box. And then once you get the glue on there, you just basically lay the panel on it and just straighten it out as much as you can. It's typically pretty easy and fast to do. But I'm going to go ahead and get this glued so that way I can start getting this panel on there. Okay, I had to angle the camera a little bit different because the box is so wide. But I got the glue on, so then you just take your panel. And I always start with one side and then I kind of let the rest just kind of fall into place. Like that. And then I just kind of push down just along the rim to make sure it's secure. Oh, and if you'll notice, I accidentally went upside down. So just turn it around. There's going to be glue up here, but it's okay. It's not the end of the world. So I'm going to just do, oh, where's my glue? A little bit of glue. Once I get it turned over, I can use my tweezers and like scrape along the top part after it dries a little bit so it gets more tacky, and I can get the glue off. With these laser printed acrylics, you just want to do it a little light so that way you don't dig into the acrylic and make a scratch. But usually when it's on the inside of the box, it doesn't matter because you're not going to see it. But I become like a perfectionist sometimes when I make these boxes, so I always want to make sure they look as good as they can, especially when I sell them. If it's for a customer, I always make sure I triple check everything before I start gluing stuff together. That way I don't have to try to scrape anything off. Okay. So let's just make sure so that's facing me. Perfect. All right, there we go. And even if, let's say, I didn't notice that right away, and it dried after a couple of days, if you can take the panel off. I mean, some of these pieces might kind of come undone, but you can always glue it back together. It's a pain in the butt to do, but if it ever happens, it's okay. Now, you're going to notice right here, let's see if you can see it. They're like, barely, but you can see a little gap. So I'm going to try to slide it up a little because I don't want my lid to have that bad of a gap when it closes. You just have to make sure that the panel still sits on the edge of the acrylic on the bottom at least. What I also do, especially when I do these bigger boxes, on the inside of the box, I will run glue along the seams on the inside so it gives it some more security. So I'll show you. Press down here. So I would suggest if you do bigger boxes, it's going to reflect my camera in here. You take your glue and you run glue along all of your seams. So I would do the corners and then along the bottoms, and then it'll give it that extra support. I would do that before you put on the other panel, because once you have all 4 panels on, it gets really hard to try to come in here and come up and down, because your hand will probably start bumping into the acrylics. So I wanted to show you, so you can probably see the glue reflecting off the laser acrylic. I have a little bit of glue over here too. Let's see if I can zoom in. Hold on. So right here, so I literally just close my tweezers and I just kind of run it along the side. And that'll help get off bigger amounts of glue. Now here, I just kind of scrape. I don't go too hard. I don't use the tip. I try really hard to use the sides. Sometimes if you go in a circular motion, it'll also help. But this is a good way to get any excess glue off if you did a mistake like I did. And then a little chunk will come off. I'm kind of glad that happened, so that way I could show that you can get glue off. Now, of course, if you used super glue, that's not going to happen. Also with super glue, it typically leaves like a white, cloudy appearance after it dries. So sometimes it's not too bad if you use that on these laser printed, but if the acrylic is more of kind of like a clear type frame, that's going to show right through. So I highly recommend staying away from super glue. If I do end up using super glue, I'll put it like in the middle part of the acrylic and then the E6000 on the outsides, because super glue does bond, you know, pretty fast, and most super glue holds really well. I usually use like the Gorilla Glue, the super glue. I tried using the Gorilla Glue that works kind of like E6000 and I did not like it. My special tips didn't fit on there for some reason, and when I tried using it, it just wasn't drying like E6000 does. I might try it again and see if it works, because I do have 2 bottles of it and I don't like wasting stuff, so I might try to do that again. I'll probably just do like a smaller box so I don't waste a bunch of acrylics. But yeah, you just gotta have a little bit of patience. If you just kind of go in smaller circles, you can get the glue off and just kind of pick off the little balls that it starts to form. Okay, so I'm gonna finish getting this glue off, and then what I'm gonna do also, since I'm doing a divider, it's really hard if you have all your panels on and then you're trying to come in from the top and stick your divider in, because the entire wall is going to be smeared with glue. So that's why I am going to do it before I get the last panel on. I need to put my other 2 pieces on top of here to make sure my divider is taller. Unless I might just leave it shorter, because I'm just dividing 2 different spaces. But I might leave it. I'll just kind of play around with it first, but I'll get this cleaned up, and then I'm going to do a line of glue on my corners and my rim, and then I'll be back to do the other panel. Alright, so now I'm going to put the divider in. I decided to do 4 pieces all together. And we're going to basically, let's see, Because one side's laser, one side's the design. I guess it doesn't really matter. But we're just going to glue like 2 sides, and then the other side will get glued when we put the other side panel on. So I think we're just going to go, because this is the floor. Let's see how I want it. Let me put my glue back. Okay, so if this is the ground, that's the front. Yeah, that'll look all good. Okay. So we're going to do the bottom. Ooh. And I did take the film off of both sides because it's going to be too hard to come back in and take it off once I get the other side on. All right. And then you basically just line it up in the middle where you glued acrylics together at. And this also really helps if you do bigger boxes where you're adding like drawers and then like a little cubby area, because this will help support the top. I did that with one of my boxes. I had the doors open from the front, and then I had 3 drawers on the side, but I had really no support for the top piece because it was just all on a couple of edges. So it really helped putting up a little wall. Okay, I'm going to turn this around so I can put the other wall on. Okay, so before I get the side panel on, I'm going to make sure that all of my film is taken off the side panels on the inside. Ooh. I would definitely make sure that you hold it on the side and gently get it off, because if you pull too hard, it could try and make the acrylic come off. Okay, this is really hard to do with the camera on, so I am going to pause it really quick and get the film off and be back. Alright, so let's glue on the front panel. I also put glue along the inside on the edges, just to make sure everything was more secure. I am wondering if this panel is going to hold okay, because with the divider in, it's kind of sticking up a little bit, so I hope all of the measurements and stuff are okay. It should line up with both of the side panels just fine, since I put everything on top of the bottom acrylic. But for this panel, we just glue all the edges of the panels. Sorry you can't see all the way over here to the right side. My camera doesn't reach this far. But I'm almost done. Okay. I'm going to wipe the tip. And then let me get the panel real quick. Okay, and also remember to take your film off the backside. Okay, it's facing correct. All right. Perfect. It's lifting a little bit. So you'll see right here there's a gap because I have that divider. So when I get this film off, I'm going to run glue along the bottom side just to give it to some more support. It'll still hold just fine because we have it attached to like 3 panels technically. And then so far, there's the box. It's pretty deep. And then I just wanted to show you the lid process. So with the lid, of course, you do not glue it on. So you can take the front and the back of the film off right away. Now I can see right away there's going to be a gap, which I don't like, so I'm going to carefully move this, and I'm sliding up this panel. Because it's not adhering to the bottom part anyway, so we can make sure to slide that up so that way it sits flush. Okay, it needs to go over a little bit. Why does that side want to... I just got to be careful since it's not 100% dry yet. There we go. All right. Okay, let's see. There we go. Okay. There we go. So see now, just by moving it up, that gap is gone. That's why when you make a regular box, typically the front and the back panels are on top of the acrylic. Okay. When you glue on your hinges, you're going to notice this one, it kind of curves down. This flat part is what you glue to your acrylic. So it has to be the flat side. If you glue it backwards, it will not stay on properly. So you always have to make sure that the flat side is on here. For big boxes, you can do usually between 3 and 4 acrylics on here. Hinges on here. So you could put one here, one in the middle, and then one down at the end, just so it gives the lid more support. You could put a knob here and here, or you can just put one in the middle, however you want to do it. And that's literally the last step. You just have to glue your knob and your hinges on and you're done. So just make sure that you use the flat part of the hinge and you'll be good. Do not try opening your lid until the next day. Your hinge needs to be completely dry before you try opening it. All right, well, I hope that helps for anybody that is trying to make some acrylic boxes out there. I will post other videos of me making different boxes and the other video about how you can fix certain mistakes. So if you need any other tips, just go ahead and watch those videos once I add them. All right, bye.